told me. My team is sitting there, I think with their jaws dropped. Because all I can tell you is our campaign platform. When I say Nairobi, you say Tunavyo Itaka. Let me see if you guys can wake up this morning. Nairobi? Nairobi? What you listened to Carol, our CEO, present this morning is the Nairobi as you want it. My role as Polycarp and how I have succeeded in my career, rising from a salesman, a management trainee in Coca-Cola, very quickly to becoming a departmental chief before I was even turned 25, to becoming a CEO by the time I was 29, and being a chief executive officer of different multinationals, was because I always knew one formula in life. I am hired by shareholders of this organization to serve a customer. And if I serve that customer will reward the shareholder sustainably over a long time. Now you'll ask, what's the relevance of that to politics? Politics, the shareholders are political parties. And I think this is where many in private sector don't get it. Politics, the shareholder in the cycle of life, of governance. You called it the governance pillar, the social pillar, and the economic pillar. The governance of a country, the shareholders, the equivalent of shareholders in private sector in politics is a political party. And I've not heard KEPSA speak enough about operationalization of the Political Parties Act and pay attention to the construct, design, discipline, hygiene of political parties. Now let me tell you a secret about our ticket as Azimio la Umoja before I really come to the content of my vision. Because shareholders, let me tell you how it works, and it works in clockwise. Shareholders simply invest in employees or management. Employees invest and serve customers. Customers reward the shareholder. That is how it works. That's how the world goes around. And if you dare go anti-clockwise, shareholders engaging with the customers, and who are the employees in politics? It's elected leaders, and then the people elected leaders appoint to be managers of government, people employed by the Public Service Commission. Those are cabinet secretaries, PSAs, directors, the guys you go to. And the idea is to then serve the voter, who's the public. So you see how the cycle works. But what has happened in Kenya for too long, and what happens to very many businesses that don't last long, and I can say that comfortably, when you see a business where shareholders combine with employees to steal from the customer, what happens? In politics, for far too long, the shareholder, who's the political party, has partnered with government employees, the civil servant, to actually not just steal, rape from the public. Rape the public, that's a word, and I'm sorry for using those words. Carol, I'm going to tell you what we want to do before I really go to what the barrier to what we want to do is. But let me pronounce the barrier. The debate in this country is no longer about what needs to be done. Nairobians know what they want, and you have presented it to us. And I hope you have given me permission to innovatively imitate and innovatively steal. Thank you very much. I'm sure you have seen me walk the streets, wash toilets, serve beer, wash cars. In fact, the latest meme is there's something I deliver just in time. But why was I doing that? Is to present to the Kenyan that here comes a man, and here comes an hour, where the politician must come from his high road as a fellow who comes with a chariot, like the way Jesus entered Jerusalem singing, Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna. The politician is simply a servant of the people. And a city is about service. And the services, you have pronounced to us the services, Carol. So the debate in this country is no longer about what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. That's not the debate. It's not even the debate in the Republic of Kenya. The biggest debate in this country, I pronounce to you, ladies and gentlemen, is who will do it. It is not what, it is not how, and it's not why it needs to be done. The conversation is about who will do it. So allow my presentation to be a lot more about who, the question of who, the governance pillar of Vision 2030. Because there's no debate about what needs to be done. But here's the thing. For far too long, because I was part of KEPSA, and thank you very much for letting people know I'm sure you'll get into trouble looking like you're campaigning for me, but facts are facts, and truth is the truth. For far too long, we realized when I was in KEPSA that after the 2010 Constitution, the Constitution demands the citizen to become an adult, not a child. There was too much parent-child relationship between government and the citizen. So government people actually call people watoto, wananchi. That's why in KEPSA we decided, who's a child? Am I speaking to children tonight? Oh, this morning, sorry, I'm thinking it's the night. Am I speaking to children? I'm speaking to adults. So the 2010 Constitution has a basic doctrine, let me call it a doctrine, that the citizen is an adult and the government is an adult. The conversation is adult to adult. But for far too long, the citizen has carried himself in this country as a child, to be pontificated to be told what to do. In fact, if you ring many people in government, you'll hear a ringtone. Sirikari's idea, Sirikari's idea. You know the lady from Bundalange. That we have moved because of the 2010 Constitution. And I remember in KEPSA, that's why we came with the word. Please don't call me a mwananchi, call me a mwenye-inchi. That was the platform of that message. And what was the underlying real issue we were trying to bring out? The underlying issue we're trying to bring out is, please, the citizen can no longer blame the weather. The citizen must change their clothes. If in your business you're a weather, there are people who blame the weather all the time. Like now they say, oh, it's too cold, so I'm in a bad mood. So you wear a sweater. Oh, it's too hot. Remove your sweater. For far too long, the citizen in this republic, and I'm speaking truth to power now, you are the most powerful people in Kenya and on earth. Not me, because I've come to beg you to vote for me. I'm speaking to every Kenyan and every Nairobian here to say, on 9th of August, it's not a contest between red and yellow, between a dove that has combined with an orange to beat a wheelbarrow. That's not the issue on 9th of August. The 9th of August is, are you an adult or are you a child? That is what is on the ballot. And will you do jambo la mtu mzima ama utafanya jambo la kitoto when you're in that polling booth on your own? The question is, who will do what you have presented to us? And who will do it quickly and most efficiently and most effectively? That is the question, political question of the year 2022. And that's why people are saying, oh, Igathe has a very unique campaign. What unique campaign? Igathe is celebrating blue-collar work, which is the foundation of a city. A city is made by waiters and waitresses. They are the heart of the cultural thing you have presented here. A city is made of matatu conductors, public sector conductors, ticket givers. A city is made of traffic controllers. A city is made up of, people who do normal work. But especially our media truly loves this image of the politician who comes down looking like a messiah. I'm not a god. And I love it that you continue to call me Poly, because I will never lose my first name. My name is Polycarp Igathe. I come to serve you, and that is why Azimio la Umoja is what I truly believe in. It's a unity to come together. So allow me to spend more time talking about the who bit rather than the what and the how. But just in case people think I've just come here without understanding the what, I also want to challenge you as KEPSA. I've told you I'll speak truth to power. And the people who brought the truth to power movement in the world are called Quakers. If you grew up in the Western Kenya, there's a church called Friends. Those people, if you go to the Friendship Center, they believe in speaking truth to power. And the most powerful people in Kenya are defined in our Constitution, chapter 1. Read chapter 1 if you don't read any other chapter. But I also want you to read chapter 4. I'll tell you why. Read chapter 1. Why do I ask you to read chapter 1? It says the power belongs, the sovereign power of the Republic of Kenya belongs to the people. And that's why sometimes you see a contest between politicians and civil servants. And civil servants must know their place. They are delegated authority. The politician is direct infusion of chapter 1. And that's why I refuse to be a cabinet secretary. That's why I've refused to be appointed chairman of this or chairman of that. That's why I have put myself in front. I have practiced what I preached in KEPSA, wajibu wangu, which was the second theme of Mkenya Daima. Wajibu wangu. You know how the soloist, the Pokomo soloist says it in our national anthem? Yeah? It is the second chapter, I believe, of our national anthem. Yeah? Na tujenge taifa letu. Have you guys truly taken breakfast? Na tujenge taifa letu. Kenya istahili heshima. Ne mikono pamoja kazini. Kila siku tuwe na shukrani. What a beautiful prayer. What an amazing invitation to give thanks to God because we've taken responsibility. But the lawyers who wrote our constitution, the characters who wrote our constitution, the fellows who wrote our constitution, led us down one tunnel. One critique I have of them, and it's a constructive critique, is they spoke too much about rights. The Bill of Rights is so heavy, which is fantastic. I don't want us to lose it. That's why every year used to be mapambano, mapambano, bado mapambano. You know, we are fighting for our rights. But haki yangu, the other side of haki yangu is wajibu. So Polycarp Igathe has taken responsibility and said, I will not complain about a politician anymore. In fact, it's Mkenya Daima that has led me to politics, if you do not know. Many people have no idea that I'm in politics because I was chairman of Mkenya Daima. Because I looked at the level of bandwidth of our politician, it is too low. It cannot download a picture or music. The character, the competence, the capability of the average politician in this country is way below the national character, the national capability, the national competence. Because all of you love to sit in suits and discuss things at Kempinski. None of you is wanting to roll up your sleeves to come to the political scene and do what I am doing. Because you can't do what I am doing, why don't you start by voting for me on 9th of August? Can I please ask for your votes on 9th of August? Because you're all scared. You're Mickey Mouses. You have refused to take responsibility, but you continue to just say, it is that fellow, it is that fellow, it is that man. I told you my subject today is about the who. Carol, allow me, and Chair, Flora, my very good friends, and Patrick Obath, and Vimal Shah, Nesbitt, all of you, please allow me to challenge you on one thing. Why don't you draw a scorecard? As a CEO, for the 26 years I worked, I succeeded and I continue to succeed as a CEO because I only used two tools to guide the organizations I'm in, and this is what I will do in Nairobi City County. Number one, my manifesto will simply present to you the scorecard of Nairobi, which I want you to hold me accountable to. I'm a responsible person. You've given me a long PowerPoint. I was sitting there saying, why don't you why don't you convert it to a scorecard? That's what Igathe understands. That is the leadership of Igathe. What do I mean by a scorecard? One pager that's saying after 5 years, and we'll review it with you every year, and we'll only mark you red, green, amber. Green, red, amber. So it's a traffic light system. Just how, like the way a city works. You want traffic lights, not a guy controlling. Give me red, take this document, is my constructive, convert it to a scorecard. A scorecard is how you will know Igathe and Professor Kaloki and Baba na Mama, Raila Amolo Odinga and Martha Karua, the Azimio la Umoja, when we come to office, are we succeeding or failing in Nairobi? I just want one page that captures it, and you should do it for the nation. I will take you to all neighborhoods association. I'll take you to the informal settlements. They'll include it. Make sure it's publicly participation. We are asking for a scorecard. How will you judge whether the governor of Nairobi has succeeded or failed on an annual basis? When I walk into an organization as an executive, that's the first question I will ask of Nairobi City County workers. There are 15,000 of them, 350. Nairobi is a county that has existed to pay salaries, not deliver services. It gobbles up 24 billion shillings every year of salaries. But for what? It is a city short of water, caught in between the shortage of water and the stink of garbage and a sewer. Nairobi, it is, let me not go into the problems. I'm talking about the future. It is what it is. We have to deal with it. Let me stop blaming the weather. Let me change my clothes. My manifesto is about a clothes change. And the work of a leader is not to cry that cost of living is high. It's actually to reduce it and say, I have brought it down. The work of a leader is not to come and pronounce problems, but to pronounce solutions. So the solution I'm asking of you, define a Nairobi County scorecard. And let it not be more than one page. It will be too long. Right? Number two, a scorecard is nothing. It's an output. Give us also a performance agreement, which I want to sign with you. A performance agreement is the few things I will do as governor of Nairobi City County every day to deliver the scorecard. So if you like what I am saying, you can hire me after I've finished as governor after 5 years to become a chairman or a consultant of your organization. If you're running your business without those two tools, you are flying blind. An organization must have a scorecard and a performance agreement. What is a performance agreement? The few things the governor of Nairobi, to sell the 20, I have to walk in Zimmerman, I have to go to these kiosks, I have to see 20 customers a day. That's a performance agreement. Are you understanding the difference? Performance agreement is what I do every day repetitively to deliver the scorecard. So allow me to present to you my performance agreement to you, so we see whether we're in concurrence. Because the performance agreement is what constitutes the Igathe Kaloki Manifesto. It has only 3 things. And the acronym for it is C. Because I think very many of us in Kenya, especially at the higher levels, who we have gone to school, we have the ability to look, but we are lacking the ability to see. To see, you bring more faculty. To look is just a physical thing, right? You can look at a lady, but you'll never see that she can be capable of being your wife until you see. So seeing, you have to bring something else. So please remember the acronym C. My performance agreement with Nairobi is C. Number 1 is S, society. Kustawisha jamii. That's what S stands for. Nairobi is a tale of 2 cities, hope and despair. Where we are sitting is the land of hope. This hotel is sitting in a titled land. This hotel is sitting in a green place. Nairobi, when do I say? It was Charles Dickens. Nairobi is a tale of 2 cities. The flower-festooned, leafy suburbs, and the deprived, left behind informal settlements. That's what Nairobi is. How many of us actually know the left behind informal settlements? And I submit to you, the flower-festooned, treed-in, leafy suburbs have only 5 years to exist if we don't solve the problem of the desperation, the despair in the informal settlement. The informal settlement of Kibra, the informal settlement of Korogosho, the informal settlement of Mathare, the informal settlement of Soweto, Congo, the informal settlement of Githogoro, the informal settlement of Kibagare, the informal settlement, which one have I left out? Mukuru, Kwa Jenga, Kwa Ruben, and there are very many. The informal settlement of Kawangware. You guys will not be alive in 5 years unless you vote in a government that balances the equation. You do not have enough electric fences, you don't have enough guns, you don't have enough bullets. Unless you come off your high horses, vote for Igathe and Kaloki, to start the journey in the next 5 years of rebalancing the equation of hope and despair. And therefore, I'm presenting to you my first scorecard. The few things I'll do very well, and I'm calling it in Swahili so that I can be understood, ni kustawisha jamii. How are we going to do with society? My scorecard only comprises 3 things. We promise to deliver zero hunger. We promise to deliver decent jobs. And we promise to deliver well-being, which you call, and it's all captured in your beautiful presentation to us. I have summarized it into 3 measures of failure and success: zero hunger, well-being, decent jobs, under that theme of society. What is my promise as governor? What is my promise to my fellow colleagues in the private sector? What's my fellow promise to adults who live in Kenya? My promise is, how will we do it? I pronounce a package I call Linda Jamii. Nairobi has 50,000 households that sleep hungry every day. Last night, there's more than 10,000 single mothers with children who could not feed their children. Those children slept hungry, and maybe the mother had to borrow water. When Raila Amolo Odinga talks about Baba Care, other people rubbish it. This 6,000 is needed. I've just come from a job as Group Chief Commercial Officer of Equity. Therefore, I know a little bit more than my competitors because they have never worked elsewhere. They've just worked in politics. One of the biggest projects I led, I was in charge of the Equity Group Foundation. I used to transmit to 9,000, Equity Bank alone, I'm not talking about KCB, Cooperative Bank, and other banks. In Equity Bank alone, I had 9,000 bank accounts that I used to help the government of Kenya transmit 2,000 shillings, cash transfer from government through the Ministry of Social Protection to the household. So when I give you the number 50,000, you are not just getting it from a politician who's kissing. You're getting it from an individual who knows. A man who's telling you, I'm the man for you in Nairobi, but it's your choice on 9th of August. They sleep hungry. So what are we going to do with Linda Jamii? This is my promise to you, because I don't want to give you a scorecard. Linda Jamii is what I do every day, repetitively, to deliver zero hunger. You get the link? What will I do with Linda Jamii? If you go on Ngong Road today, Ngong Road because of Kibra, or you go to Kiambu Road because of Githogoro, where there is a slum, you'll always see a young kid coming to sell you njugu karanga. This city, we should be ashamed that all of us allow child labor. We should all be ashamed, all of us. My candidature as governor is to stop that child labor. What will we do? We want food packages, 5 kilos of rice, 5 kilos of that, because that is enough. 5 kilos of rice, 5 kilos of unga, 5 kilos, some cooking fat. Basically a house package, which we give to the mother, we don't give to the father. The mother is the one who knows the child. We will invite the mother to come to school every Friday in primary schools and ECD schools in informal settlements. And the mother will inspect the work the child has done and confirm that that child has attended 90% of the classes. You have to allow 10% because even us, there is an allowance. And that mother will be given a food package to last her family another 2 weeks. Vote for us, because we shall roll out Linda Jamii within the first 100 days we are in office. And we will afford to roll out Linda Jamii because we shall stop the revenue leakage at Nairobi City County. That's where the financing of this will come from. When I was deputy governor of Nairobi City County, we used to collect 100 million shillings a day of revenue. But what is collected in Nairobi is in excess of 200 million shillings a day. But what gets into the Nairobi books of accounts, I think the best number I've seen, even when I've done my quick research, is 42 million, and it's KRA collecting. Ladies and gentlemen, what am I telling you? It is a thuggery fest. It's a stealing fest. Nairobi is one big live crime scene, and it has been a crime scene for 40 years. Polycarp is 49. The crime scene started when I was 9, when Margaret Kenyatta perhaps stopped being the governor of Nairobi. When Her Excellency Margaret Kenyatta was the governor of Nairobi, Nairobi even won an award for the cleanest water in the world. That's how UNEP started to come. That's when we were positioned. I liked this positioning of the city, the green city in the sun. And I love, Chair, where you reminded us that this is Ngare, Nairobi. This city was formed because of water and the railway. So we shall fix this city also with the water and the railway. And I'll explain to you. The future of this city is also water and the railway. So society, Linda Jamii is a promise we are making. I'm also making a second promise, and I invite you to participate. The laws in Kenya allow you to offer money to charity. And when you offer money to charity, it's tax deductible. I will invite you, together with other people, to launch what I have registered as the Nairobi Foundation. The Nairobi Foundation will be an opportunity to aggregate the balance sheets and the P&Ls of all successful large corporates, medium-sized corporates, to come and do something in Nairobi. Stop doing your small little disaggregated things. I've done very many disaggregated. As MD of Vivo Energy, and I can see my friend Waitito here, who was my colleague in Vivo Energy. Vivo Energy is a company behind Shell in this country. Many of you may not know, but we had a 50-year lease when I was in that company, given to us to own close to 30 acres of Karura Forest. That was our private sports club. That is how Nairobi used to be exclusive. The city wrote a 50-year lease, gave it to a private company with only 200 people to play golf, to play sports next to the UNEP Center. If you go there today, I'm the person who bequeathed those 30 acres. I bequeathed that list to the Friends of Karura. And many of you may not know, I also chaired the Karura Forest Environmental Trust, KFIT. I'm a friend of Karura Forest. When you talk to me about, not only do we have a national park, we are the only city in the world with 1,000 hectares, 1,000 acres of a rainforest next door to us. Literally, if you go to Sigiroi, you're in a rainforest. We have done nothing to use it to brand the city. If you go to the small building there, you will see a plaque called Vivo Energy. I presented it to London and I said, we must bequeath this back to the city. And it was being stolen. A few people wanted to make a hotel. Patrick Obath is here, and he was a former MD of Shell. He knows what I'm talking about. Today, if you go to Karura, the sports grounds you play on, they became public because of Polycarp Igathe, because I was MD of Shell. And we redonated it back to the city of Nairobi. Now, but I'm trying to show you how extractive even large corporates can be. Why would you accept to be given 30 acres of land just for 200 people to play in when Nairobi is so short of green spaces? So that's why I'm inviting the charitable nature, the social investment of private sector to come. You now have me in Nairobi. I will not be accountable for the Nairobi Foundation. The Nairobi Foundation will be managed by the Nairobi Economic Social Council, which will be formed. And they will sit there and manage the Nairobi Foundation and make sure all charities in the world. I was so surprised how many people are looking to bring money here, but they have no honest, sincere person to give. Around the world, the Vitol Foundation, Vitol is the largest company in the world that, and I know these people. I'm on first-name basis with their CEOs and their chairmen. I walk to London and I don't need an appointment, I can meet them. I walk to Hong Kong, I meet the chairman of the HSBC Foundation. I go to Shanghai, I meet them. They tell me, what can we do in Nairobi? And I say, it is because we have low bandwidth politicians. Now you understand, I'm not attacking anyone. Low bandwidth is a very dangerous thing. Mr. Lungaho, my primary school headmaster, used to say, little knowledge is very dangerous, Igathe. And we have allowed people of little knowledge to occupy positions of high responsibility in politics. And that's where we have failed. That's why my subject today is who? I was on the scorecard. Society, zero hunger, decent job, well-being. What are we going to do with decent jobs? Ladies and gentlemen, I appeal to you, your private sector alliance. Let me use the plight of a watchman, a friend of mine called Makoha. He's a guard in a company in industrial area. I'll not mention the company. There's a minimum wage stipulation in this country. It says, pay your people this amount of money. And this year, the president pronounced himself on the minimum wage. I can tell you in the security sector, which employs a lot of people from the Kisii community and the Luya community, majority of them are not being paid a living wage. We have far too many large corporates that are not paying people a living wage. You're paying people below. And you know, you're cutting your own legs, because when you pay people a living wage, a decent wage, what do? You add your aggregate demand. Your order books automatically go up. If you pay somebody a salary below the minimum wage, what are we saying? We shall incentivize you to pay a minimum wage. I still remember Mohammed Mukras. You don't force people, you don't penalize people, you use economic incentives to get people to do the right thing. When I lived in Australia, when you drove on a highway and you were over speeding, you saw a sign saying, hey, speed gun in 100 kilometers. That time I'm driving at 150. So what is the sign telling me? Come back to the right speed. We don't want to arrest you. That is how we shall run government. We want to, it's an incentive for me to obey the law. We are going to give large businesses and medium-sized businesses and small businesses and micro businesses an incentive to obey the law. How are we going to do it? I shall give an aggressive discount on the single business permit and on land rates for all companies that, and we will use e-government, that pay minimum wage. But we shall also enforce minimum wage through the single business permit. We shall enforce the minimum wage through the single business permit. We can't have somebody who wakes up every morning from Kibra to go to industrial area, comes back poorer than the way they went. That's how there's a lot of anger in the city of Nairobi. I wish to apply that. Let's also KEPSA find me new incentives to encourage people to pay the minimum wage. What am I saying? Decent jobs. But we shall also protect the large businesses. They'll not be harassed. They'll be given time to make sure that they ramp up. We are not coming to harass anybody. So there'll be decent jobs. Zero hunger, decent job. And what is well-being? You've spoken to it. Nairobi is the smallest high-density city. Nairobi has 696 square kilometers. The city county of Nairobi, by the way, owns 532 hectares of land. City county of Nairobi. I'll come to land use. I'm talking about society. For well-being, we shall repair every single school sports ground and ensure that sports ground is then used by the local community over the weekend. We shall bring it to superb standards. Secure it and bring it to superb standards. Those are enough grounds, and you can count the number of schools. At least in Nairobi, I know they're in excess of 250 schools. And while I'm at it, I'm going to leave at more than 1,000 primary schools. We don't have enough. We don't have enough early childhood education schools. And I'm also going to construct technical vocational educational training institutes. 3 in every constituency. 3 times 17, hesabu rahisi, 51. TVETs. And while at it, start by employing 100 kids who will go to the existing TVETs for training in every ward, so create jobs for 8,500 automatically. Who will give an apprenticeship in the county. I want KEPSA to join me because I want these kids to also come for apprenticeship in your company. Then you hand them back to us. They go through 12 months and they become the future of Nairobi City County. The average age of a worker in Nairobi City County is 52. In a city where the average age is 19. Ladies and gentlemen, you can improve my scorecard, but I've given you my vision. Judge me on whether nimestawisha jamii on 3 things. Zero hunger for anybody living in the city, decent jobs, and well-being. And well-being is about sports, culture, green spaces, and those things I've spoken about. I don't want to repeat your presentation, Carol. That's why I'm asking for a scorecard. The second thing I will do is around the economy, which I think is very close. And with the economy, we are saying tutaboresha uchumi. How are you going to do it? 3, my scorecard has 3 things, Carol. The number 1 is brand the city. If you go to Cape Town attracts over, 10 million visitors. And all they have is wine fields and a grey stone called the Table Mountain. Then they've created a lift to go up the Table Mountain. People come to see it. We have underutilized our assets. The Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, a hub. The Central Business District of Nairobi, amazing asset. Karura, Ngong, Uhuru Park, our weather. In fact, you put it very well. Our weather is the biggest asset. Sun all round. Our geolocation, we are the eye of Africa. In fact, if you draw the map of Africa and you put an eye, you're right on Nairobi, right? We are 5 hours from every global city in the world. Breakfast here, dinner in London. Breakfast here, dinner in Buenos Aires. Breakfast here, dinner in New Delhi. My friends, are you going to entrust this city on what kind of fellows will you entrust? A city that queens and lords over a population of 300 million people, because Nairobi is the hub, heartbeat of Kenya, front porch of East Africa, nation centerpiece. Who will you entrust it on is the question on the ballot. The question on the ballot is not Igathe Sakaja. Is nani mtapatia kazi to become the most important CEO of which city? Let me tell you, we headquarter Somali, we headquarter Somaliland, we headquarter Ethiopia, we headquarter Djibouti, we headquarter, I've said Ethiopia already, South Sudan, Congo, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, the whole lakeside. They come to hospital here. Their children come to school here. They come shopping here. When they have a weekend, they come dancing here. They come dating here. They come for honeymoon here. And the uniqueness of Nairobi, the only city of 6 million people, 600 kilometers from the sea. The management of the Nairobi city affairs requires somebody who understands. Look at all cities in the world. They are on the water. Lagos, Casablanca, Cape Town, Buenos Aires. Everybody in the world lives at sea level, near the water. Nairobi is the only city, one of the few cities, that is inland. And when Uhuru Kenyatta and his government debottlenecks logistics with the standard gauge railway, we say it's expensive because we don't understand the big picture. We don't see. We don't see. We have no epiphany. Because if you have 300 million people and you are the lord of it, you bring the logistics center. You share the logistics center. You just have a port in Mombasa and you start to move inland. That's why Embakasi today, near the airport, Embakasi South, has become the largest logistics center. We are now 6 hours from the beach, thank God, to the work that was done with the standard gauge railway. That railway levy we paid has enabled Nairobi, promise, a visitor to be 6 hours in the beach. Lee Kuan Yew, how did he define Nairobi? Singapore, which is perhaps my favorite city of all places. He said if you're traveling in an economy class ticket of an aeroplane and you land at the airport in Singapore, the last person off the plane going to the farthest hotel in the city should take 20 minutes. That is a scorecard he gave the city managers. That was his definition. And then he asked, who sits between our goal of 20 minutes from the time the plane lands to the time you get to your hotel? That was the standard. That's what I mean by scorecards. How do we hold politicians accountable? Zero. I have never seen a country where people earn a salary for doing nothing more than Kenya. That's why I resigned the time before. I will never take a salary for doing nothing. I promise you Nairobians, I promise you Kenyans, I promise you KEPSA here today from my heart. I will not take a salary for nothing. I worked in equity. I built the biggest balance sheet during COVID-19. I found a 500 billion balance sheet. I left equity with 1.2 trillion balance sheet. I found Shell had left Western Kenya. It had only 98 petrol stations. I left 202 petrol stations. I found HACO, a small company, employing 400 people. I left close to 1,200 employees, and we sold that company to a global conglomerate. I am a performer who behaves. I'm somebody who performs and behaves. I submit to you, I'm the man you need. I'm the man you want, but the choice is yours on 9th of August. And I'm giving you my scorecard. So on the economy is brand the city. On the economy is catalyze biashara. The single business permit is truly going to become a single business permit. I'm going to aggregate the revenue lines from 126 to no more than a dozen. And then we'll segment the business permit. Can you imagine a hotel and restaurant, how many permits? How much permits Kempinski requires? Food handlers, fire, single business permit. Why do you call it single business permit? Then you create another 44. Why can't it just be truly single business permit? And it should be a QR code. There's nobody who enters your premises. The QR code is at the road. He just does like that, confirms that whether it's paid or not. We shall catalyze biashara, but the biggest promise under catalyzing biashara is a single business permit. But the most important one under uchumi, and allow me to get stuck here, is to truly take Nairobi out of the jaws of capture by cartels and organized criminals. Nairobi is a big organized criminal field and cartel. What am I talking about? Guys, that's the real question. I said my favorite chapter in the Constitution is chapter 1. Let me add another chapter. My favorite chapter is also chapter 4 of the Constitution. Chapter 4 is the Bill of Rights. Chapter 1 is about sovereignty of the people. Chapter 4 is the Bill of Rights. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proposing something ballistic. I'm asking that we activate chapter 4 of Kenya's Constitution in Nairobi. Part 4 especially. Declare corruption a state of emergency. What does the law say? The Constitution allows the president of the country, together with the governor, to speak and declare state of, let's not declare the state of emergency in Kenya. Let's call the state of emergency on corruption in the city county of Nairobi. The life of the Kenyan nation is today threatened, not by war, not by invasion, not by general insurrection, not by natural disaster, but by corruption in Nairobi. Corruption in Nairobi is threatening the Republic of Kenya. And if you bring somebody of questionable documents, somebody of ineligible capability, a party that is an aggregation and conglomeration of cartoons, charlatans, thieves, drug addicts, corrupt people, do not blame anyone else. I am asking, and I'm pronouncing in my manifesto to Parliament, because I'm a mere governor, the people of Kenya, because the National Assembly and the government, and who Raila Amolo Odinga has pronounced himself on corruption. And that's why I love Mother Karua, Wangari Karua, an icon woman on fighting corruption. And she has a partner called Mother Kome, who we are going to work with. Together with Polycarp Igathe and Professor Kaloki, I want you to support that we declare a state of emergency on corruption. Enact a law conferring extraordinary powers to make regulations that give extraordinary power to the governor and to the president to tackle this corruption issue. By the way, it's in the Constitution. If you doubt it, read Article 132, subsection 4, Part D of Chapter 4 of Kenya's Constitution. And I'm not a lawyer. This is the laws. The problem in Kenya is not new laws, it's enforcing the laws we have. Constitution allows the president to declare a state of emergency on a particular issue. We must do it in Nairobi. But let's not do it and look like we are coming to create a firing squad to kill people. I'm also asking that in addition to declaring the state of emergency, in equal measure, I'll be inviting the Nairobi County Assembly and the National Assembly to pronounce themselves on an amnesty before we activate the state of emergency. We create an amnesty that allows restitution, recovery, and regularization. Do you know 9 out of 10 buildings you see in Eastlands does not have a building permit? We don't even have a map. People build like this, then they go like this. There is no lighting. That's why rickets, the biggest prevalence of rickets is in the city county of Nairobi, which is on the equator. Lack of vitamin D is one of the biggest public health issues in the city county of Nairobi. Lack of vitamin D. People just build. You build. So you hear people talking and you say, why? But it's impunity. But what can we do as governor? Do I come and destroy all of them? Break those buildings? Let's create a room and a road to recovery and regularization. There are so many of us, including some of us in this room, and I'm sorry to say, including myself, who have grabbed school land, especially churches. You know, those guys are really hurting us because they've become a transmission mechanism for corruption. That's what the church has become. They have no moral authority anymore. They have become a transmission mechanism. We are stealing school land. You go to City Primary, look. Go look. The headmasters of primary school are using school fields as parking lots and charging for parking. We are stealing health center. We are stealing sports ground. You know how the Muzungu had designed Nairobi? Every ward in Nairobi had a school sports ground, had a social hall, had a health center, had a an early childhood education school. It had a fire station. It had, every ward had that. Today, if you go there, where I live in Karura ward, on the left was a fire station, right opposite KTTC, which was grabbed. But the person who grabbed it lives and plays golf in this city. Now, do I go? And the institutions that should have stopped him exist. Do I go and kill the institution? Ladies and gentlemen, if we can give an amnesty on tax, we can also give an amnesty on corruption. But even in my church, and I'm Catholic by faith, we go and say confession. I confess, like this, but we atone for our sins. Atonement is restitution, is recovery, is regularization. But it requires the best lawyers who are not founded in the technicality of the law, but in the spirit and letter of the law. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in Kenya is because our lawyers go straight to doing law. They don't study liberal arts or other things. So they don't think on first principles. Yeah? And we have too many lawyers, and I have no issue with lawyers. I just think as a profession, and even me as a professional, we should not be people who know too much about too little. We need to really move on and move on. And that's a promise. This corruption thing, if I don't fix it, you can consider what you have presented to me dead on arrival. The reason why this has happened is not because we don't know. The reason why Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has become very unpopular in Kikuyu land is because he shut-fronted corruption. So all corrupt people and their representatives have moved to the Yellow Party. Actually, this election is not about any other tribe. The Luyas know how they will vote. The Kambas know how they will vote. The Luos know how they will vote. The Muindis know how they will vote. The politics is done in mother tongue, so don't panic. The only people who are going to be tested, whether their culture, their beliefs, their character, the people on trial on 9th of August is my tribe, the Mogikoyos. It is a referendum on whether you Kikuyus truly believe in your own stomachs and ideas, or whether you believe in the nationalist covenant that is Kenya. We are where our grandfathers were. Those who were led by Dedan Kimathi and Bildad Kagia from Kiburi House on Grogan Road to go and fight for independence and the land army, and those who fought with the colonialists, who till today we different, is not a challenge of land, is not a challenge of hardware, is a challenge of software. Watch the software of the leader you elect on 9th of August, ladies and gentlemen. It is about who. I am making a promise to tackle city capture by cartels in my scorecard. So my three goals under Uchumi is brand the city, catalyze biashara, and tackle city capture. And I know they start, Jaindi Kisero wrote a beautiful article that corruption starts with budgeting. I want to go further and say corruption starts with elections. You accept money from the devil, you go to the office with your hands tied. You accept money to be fundraised by the wrong people, so please make sure that elections fundraising, which is part of political parties bill, is a very important chapter of our society. There are very many politicians today accepting checks from the wrong people. I want to finish. Let me finish. I think I've spoken too long. Let me finish. The last thing is about the environment. Kuboresha mazingira yetu. Nairobi has 500 land use. How do you have a city county with 532 hectares of land? And on that land sits 12,000 single dwelling units. 12,000 single dwelling units sit on 500 acres of land. By the way, if you're doubting me, go and drive from City Stadium to Dunham. That's the land I'm talking about. Poor land use. We have, and zoning and urban planning. Land use and urban planning is a commitment. Safety and security, pollution of air, noise, and water. And making the city climate smart. The challenge of our times, ladies and gentlemen, is poverty, disease, ignorance, and climate change in the city of Nairobi. And if that challenge is not won in Nairobi, that challenge will be won or lost in Nairobi for the rest of Kenya. And that's why I have put my candidature up. My candidature with Professor Kaloki, my candidature as Azimio la Umoja, is to become the champion of public need. and they expand public need, reduce and eliminate to the extent possible private greed. Public need versus private need. Ladies and gentlemen, I may have disappointed you by talking too long, by talking too passionately. But you are the power. You are sovereign power. You are chapter 1 of Kenya's constitution. And even the lawyers went further and they were very prescriptive. They gave you chapter 6, which you ignore, which institutions ignore. When institutions ignore chapter 6, it's your job. You're the last line of defense at the election to do the right thing. And presented to you, and I have even gone to the community that matters the most. The swing vote in this country is Mount Kenya. That's where everybody is living there. That's where the swing, but when I say Mogekoyos, I know what I'm talking about. And politics is the tyranny of numbers, whichever way you compute them. There are a million Kikuyus in Nairobi. You're the ones who will decide. How Nairobi looks, the governor of Nairobi will reflect who Kikuyus are. Who Kikuyus are. The rest of Kenya will know. And Kenya is not a tennis match between the Kalenjins and the Kikuyus for presidency. It is not. And there is a mammalian politician and a reptilian politician. Those are the people on the ballot on 20. You know how reptiles behave? They lay eggs, they sting, they run away. They don't even take care of their children. But mammals nurture. They are like Raila Odinga, you know? They nurture. You try. 5 years, the man is still, he's like an elephant. He's a mammal, graceful, kind, proper. Even when you disagree with him, he says, well, come. His best friend, Miguna writes the most rudest of books. The guy still sits with him. You know, he disagrees. Which part of this can't you see, especially you Kikuyus? Which part of it can you see? It is time to unite the country, ladies and gentlemen, as I close. And we unite the country in hardware terms and in software terms. We are now united by road networks. We are united by electricity. We are united by access to data. In fact, there is no longer rural urban in Kenya. If you see a young woman dressed in Pasenga in Nyandarua and one dressed in Westlands, Nairobi, they dress the same. They have the same access to information because the information superhighway has connected them. But the hardware is different. The software is different. This thing called corruption has eaten us to the bone. It is time to say a stop. If you believe corruption must stop, then you will vote Igathe, you will vote Raila Amolo Odinga, you will vote Martha Karua, you will vote Edwin Sifuna, you will vote Esther Passaris in Nairobi, and lastly, you will vote an MCA with a name in the Azimio coalition. That is what you will do. If you love corruption, then on the 10th of August, let us, the majority, have their way, and the minority will have had their. If you did not like anything I said, I sincerely apologize. I did not mean to hurt you. I just meant to speak truth to power. And I am the fellow applying for a job to be governor of Nairobi City County. I'm competent, I'm capable, I'm confident, and I'm humble enough to be your servant. I am coming to be your servant. Go and look for votes for me if you are convinced. Go and tell your brother and your sister that this is the election of a lifetime. This is the time we truly show wajibu wangu. This is the time we truly do that. Because the conversation in Kenya is not about what needs to be done, or how it needs to be done, or why it needs to be done. The conversation is about who will do it. Who will do it? And this conversation, the people who have not decided the most, they are around Mount Kenya. And those are the ones. Because all parties have come together. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me. Vote for us because we shall change society, change the economy for the better, change the environment for the better. We shall make everybody see. We shall have a beautiful, wonderful city. If you forget everything I've said, just remember, vote for me and your property will increase in value 10 times. Thank you for listening to me.
Wow. Thank you very much, our key guest, Mr. Igathe.